Ladies and gentlemen, the India story has earned global recognition and won pride of place amongst the superpowers. Visuals of world leaders acknowledging India's leadership and role while lining up to deepen ties with New Delhi show India's stock has risen worldwide, making it an attractive partner. The world's oldest democracy is not oblivious to the rise in Bharat's stature. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the US is sending an unmistakable signal with President Biden extending an invite to PM Modi for an intimate family dinner on 21st of June, a day before he is accorded an official state welcome. Many would say it amounts to a personal honor and endorsement of Modi and the country that he represents. Officially, the US has rightly summed up that the special treatment for PM Modi was reflective of the extraordinary ties between the two countries. Listen in.
We see this defining relationship as a unique connection between the world's oldest and largest democracies, with a special obligation now to demonstrate that our governments can deliver for and empower all of our citizens. We see all of this in the deep bonds between our people who participate in exchange programs, maybe most important here in the United States, an Indian-American diaspora over 4 million strong and growing stronger every day. We see the importance of the partnership in a shared commitment to address regional and global challenges, promoting health security, working with our Quad partners to build a free, open, secure, prosperous Indo-Pacific, where people, where goods, where ideas can travel freely and rules are applied fairly. The evolution in this relationship, just over the past couple of decades, has been extraordinary.
We are very much looking forward to have Prime Minister Modi here. As you know, the United States has a significant defense partnership with India and terrific cooperation inside the Quad, across the Indo-Pacific with India. There's a lot to talk about. We're looking forward to the visit.
You're watching the News Hour at 9, debate number 2 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And all our panelists continue to be with us. Let me go right across to Sumanth Raman. Let me begin with you. Sumanth Raman, an intimate family dinner with President Biden's family. That's not the only important point. There's also, of course, the fact that he's the only Indian PM, at least in recent years, to address the US Congress session twice. It's a rare honor, in fact, that has been given in the past to Churchill and Mandela and similar stature global leaders. This is also only the third state visit ever in over 75 years, with the other two persons or dignitaries who received the state visit from India being President Radhakrishnan and Dr. Manmohan Singh in 2009, President Radhakrishnan in the year 1963. On many counts, it's a very, very important recognition of the role that India, and as the Prime Minister of India, that Dr. Narendra Modi, I beg your pardon, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, I beg your pardon, is playing today.
Big oops. Okay. Madhav.
My apologies, sir.
Okay. Now, two things. One, the relationship with the US has significantly improved, particularly over the last 15 years. And you know that, the US, Indo-US nuclear deal was there, and subsequently there has been a consistent improvement. One of the major reasons is also the fact that the US now sees India as a counterbalance to China in this region, and therefore has the need to have better ties with India, and also the fact that they've sort of more or less given up on Pakistan. Is all of these things are acting to our advantage. So I think that realpolitik guides the foreign policy of any country more than any individual. There will always be an individual rapport. So for instance, the rapport with former President Trump that former President Trump had with Prime Minister Modi was believed to be a very good one. Now, if we now say that President Biden also has a good rapport, it is as much a reflection of the United States' need to reach out to India and the need to have India on its side in its confrontation, quote
But what does it say about
China,
Rahul Gandhi?
than anything else?
Who told the United States talking about the absence of democracy in India? Clearly, Washington DC has given its signal as to how much credence they give to those claims of Mr. Gandhi, don't you think?
Look, this is a state visit of a prime minister of the country. I don't think that even if the US has certain reservations, this is not the time that they are likely to articulate them. And it's very clear as well. Rahul Gandhi's visit was in no way meant to get the US government to put pressure on the Indian government to restore democracy. I think Rahul Gandhi would have been extremely naive if he even thought that something like that was going to happen.
Dr. Ranganathan, this is not a response to Rahul Gandhi. The government has its other priorities. That's what Dr. Sumanth Raman would have us believe. Do you feel that, or do you agree with Dr. Sumanth Raman?
I would agree with all the points that Dr. Sumanth Raman has made. And this is not the first time I am agreeing with him. My problem with him is that while he has made those points that are correct, that's just half the story. Will he please at least compliment that our relations with America are much better right now than they have ever been? Come on, Dr. Raman, at least sometimes you can praise this government.
And I'm only saying that is it not because of the situation and circumstances that America faces vis-a-vis China? That's all.
So diplomacy has no role.
Diplomacy has everything to do with it.
And the diplomacy that has been headed and stewarded by the Prime Minister for the last 9 years.
But Rahul,
let me tell you, if it was 15, 20 years ago when India was buying Russian oil at the time when America was staunchly against Russia in a war, America would have put sanctions on India. At least Dr. Sumanth Raman should acknowledge this. Something good happens.
Pakistan is buying Russian oil.
Okay, let Sanjay Jha take that question. Sanjay Jha.
You can't.
Sanjay Jha, one second. Sanjay Jha, quick response to what Dr. Anand Ranganathan is saying. He's saying the situation 15, 20 years ago would have been very different if not for the kind of diplomacy and the diplomatic efforts that have been undertaken by the present regime for the last 9 years. Your response to him?
Two very quick points. Number one, can I speak, Anand, without your trying
quickly, yeah. We have limited time, gentlemen, so please don't interrupt each other. Very limited time. I'm coming to you, Sanju, right after Mr. Jha speaks. Yes.
Old tweet of yours, Sanjay.
So Madhav, in very simple terms, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the US State Department, 6 years in a row, they have commented on the state of religious freedom in India, and there's been a severe indictment by the Foreign Department of the US government. Number two, do you remember Barack Obama when he came to India? Barack Obama came to India for a Republic Day function that Mr. Modi called him for. Guess what happened? He went back to the United States, and his first statement was, Mahatma Gandhi would have been shocked had he seen the level of intolerance and the disrespect to diversity being done in our country. That is shocking. I have worked with American.
That's why President Biden is calling him for an intimate dinner, sir. That's why President Biden is calling him for an intimate dinner. Okay, Sanju Verma.
May I please come in?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sanjay Jha is completely either ignorant or pretends to be so.
Anand, मेरा tweet निकालो.
Okay, let Sanju speak. Let her make a point. You've asked a question of the government. Let her speak.
Sanjay Jha, please now shut up for a change. Thank you. Now let me remind Sanjay Jha with a quote of Prime Minister Modi's. सुनिए जरा ध्यान से, तुम्हारे पाँव के नीचे जमीन नहीं है, तुम्हारे पाँव के नीचे जमीन नहीं है, लेकिन कमाल तो ये है, तुम्हें यकीन नहीं है. You have no ground under your feet, and yet you come here and start giving a bhashan to the BJP every evening. Chup ho jaiye. And now, Madhav, let me come in. I want to make one very important point. I think the most important thing, as you rightly said, is the fact that today with the United States, we have a bilateral trade of close to $200 billion, point number one. Point number two, a few months back, we signed a mega deal of $46 billion to buy 222 Boeing aircraft with an additional clause to buy 70 more Boeing aircraft at a later date. Close to 300 Boeing aircraft, total deal size of $46 billion, bilateral trade every year with US to the tune of $200 billion. Do you know when Apple first came into India? The big company from the US with a market cap of more than $3 trillion. It came in 1986 when Rajiv Gandhi was the PM. After that, it took Apple a good 37 years before it set up its first bona fide, full-fledged, homegrown outlet in India, opening its first outlet at DKC barely a few weeks back in 2023.
Right.
So please don't sit here and give a lecture to the Modi government.
Okay.
Prime Minister Modi is perhaps one of the few leaders who will not only be addressing a joint session, but he has been invited by both the Senate and the House of Representatives to be addressing a joint session for the second time. And Sanjay Jha is burning. Sanjay Jha is making a fool of himself because he...
Okay, completely out of time.
Madhav,
Ladies and gentlemen, completely out of time. Sorry, I wish we could have had a longer debate on this, but the first debate was a little longer than I expected. We'll have to leave it there for the moment. Sanju Verma, Dr. Sanjay Jha, Dr. Anand Raghunathan and Dr. Sumanth Raman, thank you so much for joining us this evening.